The sun dipped low in the sky, casting long shadows over the neatly manicured lawns of Maplewood Estates. It was a typical Friday afternoon, and the neighborhood buzzed with the hum of weekend anticipation. Children raced through sprinklers, their laughter mingling with the sound of cicadas in the warm air. Among the chatter and the fading light, a sense of peace enveloped the community, but beneath the surface, tension simmered. In the heart of the park, a group of teenagers gathered around a basketball court. Among them was Jordan Thompson, a 16-year-old with a bright smile and an easygoing demeanor. Jordan had grown up in Maplewood, an upscale suburb where diversity was more of a buzzword than a reality. As one of the few black families in the area, the Thompsons had always navigated the fine line between acceptance and prejudice. But Jordan was determined not to let the stares and whispers dampen his spirit. "Yo, pass it," Jordan shouted, sprinting towards the hoop as his friend Malik dribbled the ball. The game was intense, filled with playful trash talk and laughter that echoed in the evening air. Jordan felt alive, immersed in the camaraderie of friends who shared his passion for basketball. Across the park, seated on a bench, was Karen Williams, a middle-aged white woman known for her meticulous eye on the neighborhood. She had lived in Maplewood for over a decade, her life defined by her role as a concerned citizen and a self-appointed guardian of the community's peace. With her perfectly styled hair and crisp polo shirt, Karen had always taken pride in her ability to keep the neighborhood safe. But her watchful eye often blurred the line between vigilance and judgment. As she observed the boys playing, something about Jordan caught her attention. He moved with a grace that seemed out of place, his enthusiasm infectious. But as he celebrated a particularly impressive shot, Karen's mind began to race. What was a group of teenagers doing in the park so late? Were they up to no good? Her imagination spiraled, fueled by the prejudices she had internalized over the years. She reached for her phone, her fingers trembling as she dialed 911. "Yes, I'd like to report some suspicious activity," she said, her voice steady yet laced with anxiety. "There are some young boys playing basketball in the park. I think they might be up to something. It just doesn't feel right." She described Jordan and his friends, painting a picture that was far more threatening than the scene before her. "Ma'am, are they threatening you?" the operator asked, maintaining a calm demeanor. "No, but they look out of place. I just think you should send someone to check it out," Karen insisted, her heart racing with a mix of fear and righteous indignation. "All right, we'll send someone. Please stay on the line." As the dispatcher reassured her, Jordan remained blissfully unaware of the storm brewing just a few hundred feet away. The game continued, the boys lost in their laughter and competition, unaware that someone was seeing them through a distorted lens. Moments later, two police cars pulled up to the park. The sight of the flashing lights brought the joyous sounds of laughter to an abrupt halt. Jordan glanced toward the commotion, confusion etched on his face. He felt a knot tighten in his stomach, a sinking realization that something was very wrong. The officers stepped out of their cars, the authoritative presence sending a ripple of unease through the group. One officer approached Karen, while the other walked towards the teenagers. "Everything all right here?" Officer Daniels asked, his tone friendly yet professional. He was a tall man with a calm demeanor, his badge gleaming in the sunlight. Karen pointed towards Jordan, her voice shaky but assertive. "That one there. I saw him acting suspiciously. They're not from around here. You should do something." Officer Daniels turned his gaze to Jordan, who stood frozen, a mixture of confusion and apprehension written all over his face. "Can I ask what's going on?" he inquired, his voice steady but lacking the warmth that could ease Jordan's worry. "I was just playing basketball with my friends," Jordan replied, trying to mask his uncertainty. "We didn't mean any harm. We're just having fun." The other officer, Officer Stevens, who had been listening nearby, stepped closer. "All right, fellas, I need to see some identification." Jordan's heart raced. "What? We haven't done anything wrong." Karen, emboldened by the police's presence, interjected. "See, this is exactly what I was talking about. They're being defensive because they know they're up to no good." The atmosphere shifted, a palpable tension filling the air. The other boys exchanged glances, sensing the gravity of the situation. They had always been told to respect authority, but this felt different. They were being painted as criminals for simply enjoying a game. Officer Daniels held up a hand, attempting to de-escalate the situation. Let's just take a breath here. We're not here to cause trouble. We just want to ensure everyone's safe. But his reassurance fell on deaf ears, overshadowed by Karen's relentless insistence. As Jordan reached into his pocket for his ID, he felt a surge of anger and frustration. Why was he being treated like a criminal? Why was his mere presence in the park, something that should have been perfectly innocent, now turning into a scene from a nightmare? Just then, the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a shadow over the park that felt all too foreboding. Jordan's friends stood silently, a mix of fear and disbelief etched on their faces, while Karen's smug expression reflected her misguided sense of righteousness. The night air grew thick with tension as Officer Daniels glanced back at Jordan, his expression softening. "I'll need you to stay calm while we sort this out, all right." But Jordan's heart pounded, anger boiling just beneath the surface. This wasn't just about basketball anymore. It was about a society that often judged him before knowing him. And in that moment, he vowed to stand his ground, ready to confront the injustice that loomed just ahead. As the police began their questioning, the foundations of their peaceful neighborhood were about to be shaken, and Jordan knew that this incident would change everything. The game they had loved so much had come to an abrupt end, replaced by a reality that was all too harsh. The park, once vibrant with the laughter and energy of youth, now felt like a courtroom, the air thick with tension and uncertainty. Jordan stood frozen, his heart racing as the officers began to question him and his friends. He could see Malik's face twisted in confusion, while the other boys shuffled nervously, trying to understand what had just happened. "Can you tell us your names?" Officer Stevens asked, his tone stern yet not unkind. "Jordan Thompson," he replied, his voice steady despite the storm brewing inside him. "And this is Malik and Jamal." He gestured to his friends, who echoed their names, their expressions a mix of disbelief and fear. "All right, I need to see some IDs," Officer Stevens said, his eyes narrowing slightly. "Why?" Malik asked, his voice rising. "We didn't do anything wrong. Just following procedure," Officer Daniels interjected, trying to maintain calm. He looked at Jordan, a hint of empathy in his eyes. "We're just checking to ensure everything's all right. It's a busy night, and we got some calls about suspicious activity." Jordan couldn't believe what he was hearing. A call about suspicious activity, because they were playing basketball. The unfairness of it all crashed over him like a wave, threatening to drown him in frustration. Karen stood to the side, her arms crossed, watching the unfolding drama with a sense of satisfaction. Her heart swelled with a feeling of superiority, convinced she had done the right thing by calling the police. In her mind, she was protecting her community, but she didn't realize she was simultaneously damaging the lives of innocent teenagers. As the officers continued their inquiries, Jordan's mind raced. He knew his father was a judge, a respected figure in the community, but he had always been cautious about using that privilege. He didn't want to be perceived as the judge's son who was above the law. But now, as the police scrutinized him, he couldn't help but wonder if that connection would help him in this moment. "Can we call our parents?" Jamal asked, his voice trembling. "Yeah, I want to call my dad," Jordan added, hoping his father could defuse the situation with his authority. Officer Daniels nodded. "Sure, but first, we need to verify your identities. Please cooperate, and this will be over quickly." The boys fished out their school IDs, their hands shaking as they handed them over. Jordan couldn't shake the feeling that they were being judged not just by the officers, but by Karen and anyone else who might be watching. The humiliation gnawed at him, and the knowledge that their evening of fun had transformed into something sinister left a bitter taste in his mouth. As the officers took their time verifying the IDs, the bystanders who had gathered began to murmur amongst themselves. Some were sympathetic, shaking their heads at the sight of the boys being treated like criminals. Others, however, watched with disapproval, echoing Karen's sentiments that the boys were somehow out of place. After what felt like an eternity, Officer Stevens returned with their IDs. "You all are fine. We just received a report, and we had to investigate," he said, trying to sound reassuring. "But I need to remind you to be cautious about where you're hanging out and how you're perceived by others." Jordan's frustration bubbled over. "So what? We have to watch how we play basketball in our own neighborhood because some people might think we look suspicious." "Jordan, keep your voice down," Officer Daniels said gently, though his tone held an undercurrent of authority. "We're not here to cause trouble. We just want to keep everyone safe." "Safe from what?" Jordan challenged, his voice rising. "We're just kids playing basketball." The tension in the air was palpable, and Jordan felt his heart racing. This wasn't just about him. It was about every black kid who had ever felt the weight of scrutiny for simply existing. He wanted to scream that he had just as much right to play in the park as anyone else. But instead, he felt trapped in a narrative he didn't create. As Officer Stevens gathered the boys' IDs, a low murmur spread through the crowd. Some people began to leave, disillusioned by the scene unfolding before them, while others stayed, their expressions revealing a mixture of concern and curiosity. Just then, a voice broke through the murmurs. "Is everything all right here?" A woman stepped forward, her demeanor calm yet assertive. She was in her 30s, her skin tone reflecting a rich diversity that seemed to stand out against the backdrop of the park. "Yes, ma'am," Officer Daniels replied, attempting to maintain the situation. "Just following up on a report." The woman, Dr. Angela Mitchell, was a local physician known for her advocacy in community health and justice. She had witnessed the entire event unfold and felt compelled to intervene. "I was just passing by, and it looks like you're treating these boys rather harshly for simply playing basketball." Officer Stevens frowned, clearly annoyed by the unexpected confrontation. "Man, we're just doing our job." There was a concern, and we had to respond. Dr. Mitchell's expression softened as she looked at Jordan and his friends. "I understand that, but perhaps a conversation would have sufficed instead of calling the police. These boys should be able to enjoy their neighborhood without fear of being criminalized." Jordan's heart swelled with gratitude, a flicker of hope igniting within him. Here was an adult standing up for him when it felt like the world had turned against him. Karen's face flushed with indignation. "They were acting suspiciously. This is a nice neighborhood, and we need to protect it." Dr. Mitchell shot her a stern look. "Protecting the neighborhood doesn't mean targeting kids for no reason. That kind of fear only breeds division and mistrust." "Look, we'll be on our way now," Officer Daniels said, sensing the shift in the crowd's mood. "But remember, boys, it's best to be aware of how your actions might be perceived. We all have a responsibility to keep our community safe." As the officers began to walk back to their cars, Jordan felt a mix of relief and anger. He didn't want to be anyone's lesson or cautionary tale. They were just kids playing basketball, and they had been made to feel like criminals. With a deep breath, he turned to his friends, who were still processing the chaotic scene. "Let's just go home," he said, his voice low. Malik nodded, still visibly shaken. "I can't believe it just happened." As they walked away from the park, the weight of the incident settled heavily on Jordan's shoulders. The laughter and joy they had shared moments ago felt like a distant memory, overshadowed by the harsh reality they had just faced. Meanwhile, Karen lingered, her mind racing with a mix of self-righteousness and doubt. Had she overreacted? As she watched the boys leave, she felt a nagging sensation that perhaps she hadn't acted entirely out of concern. But as she drove away, she pushed those thoughts aside, convinced she had done the right thing for her community. Jordan's phone buzzed in his pocket as they reached the street corner. It was a message from his dad. "I heard about what happened. Let's talk when you get home." Jordan's heart sank. He could only imagine the disappointment in his father's voice. He had never wanted to be the subject of a police incident. As they approached the corner of Maplewood Drive, he glanced back at the park one last time, a place that had been a sanctuary turned battleground, and wondered how long it would take for things to return to normal. But deep down, he knew that this experience had changed him forever. The world he had grown up in suddenly felt more complicated and more dangerous, and he resolved to find a way to rise above it all even if the path ahead was uncertain. The following day dawned bright and clear, but the warmth of the sun did little to chase away the chill of the events that had transpired in Maplewood Park. As the community slowly awakened, whispers of the incident swirled like autumn leaves caught in a gust of wind. Social media exploded with posts and comments, many condemning Karen's actions, while others defended her right to protect her neighborhood. At the Thompson household, the atmosphere was tense. Jordan sat at the breakfast table, picking at a piece of toast as his father, Judge Raymond Thompson, flipped through the morning newspaper. The headlines screamed of the previous evening's events. Teenager arrested for playing basketball in park. Dad, I'm sorry, Jordan muttered, his voice barely above a whisper. He felt the weight of shame pressing down on him. He knew his father would be disappointed. Judge Thompson looked up, his expression a mixture of concern and determination. You have nothing to be sorry for, son. You didn't do anything wrong. His voice was calm but firm, a grounding presence in the storm of emotions swirling around them. Jordan felt the heat of his father's gaze, and though he appreciated the support, it didn't erase the sting of the previous night's humiliation. It just doesn't seem fair, Dad. We were just playing basketball. Why did they have to call the cops? Because, unfortunately, there are people who see things differently, Judge Thompson replied, setting down the newspaper. This isn't the first time I've seen innocent kids being treated like criminals. It's a systemic issue that we need to address, and I want you to know that I'll do everything I can to help. Jordan nodded, but the words felt like a flimsy bandage over a deep wound. What can you do? We'll figure it out together, his father said, determination creeping into his voice. I want to meet with the police chief, discuss how to prevent this kind of thing from happening in the future. You shouldn't have to worry about being judged for simply existing. As breakfast continued in silence, Jordan's mind drifted back to the park. He could still hear the laughter of his friends, still feel the rush of adrenaline from the game. Now those memories were tainted, overshadowed by the fear and indignity of being treated like a criminal. That afternoon, Judge Thompson made good on his word. He called a meeting with the police chief, hoping to address the incident and advocate for a community discussion about race and policing. At the police station, the atmosphere was tense. The chief, Chief Harris, a middle-aged man with graying hair and an air of authority, listened as Judge Thompson laid out his concerns. Chief, I believe we need to have a conversation about the racial dynamics in our community. Judge Thompson began. What happened to my son was not just an isolated incident. It's indicative of a larger problem. We need to work together to ensure that no child feels they are in danger for simply playing in their neighborhood. Chief Harris nodded, his expression unreadable. I understand your concerns, Judge. However, our officers are trained to respond to potential threats. When a call comes in, they have to act according to the protocol. But was this really a threat? Judge Thompson pressed, frustration creeping into his voice. Jordan was playing basketball with his friends. There was no threat to anyone. This is about perception and bias. We can't keep allowing fear to dictate our responses. The chief sighed, rubbing his temples. I hear you, and I want to address this issue. But we also have to consider the community's concerns. There are many residents who feel unsafe and want to see action when they perceive a problem. Addressing concerns doesn't have to come at the expense of innocent children, Judge Thompson replied. We need to educate our officers and the community about these biases. We need to foster understanding and build trust, not fear. As the conversation continued, Jordan sat at home, feeling helpless. He wished he could do something to change the narrative, to show the community that he was just a regular kid with dreams and aspirations. But the stigma he now faced felt insurmountable. Later that evening, he received a text from Malik. Meet us at the park. We need to talk. The message brought a flicker of hope to Jordan's heart. He wanted to be with his friends, to share in their confusion and anger. As he arrived at the park, he spotted Malik and Jamal sitting on the bleachers, their expressions solemn. The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting a golden hue over the scene that felt starkly at odds with the gravity of their situation. Hey, Jordan greeted them, taking a seat beside Malik. Did you hear what people are saying? Jamal asked, his voice low. Some people think we were just looking for trouble. Yeah, and Karen is acting like a hero for calling the cops, Malik added, shaking his head in disbelief. I can't believe she did that. Jordan clenched his fists, anger boiling within him. We didn't do anything wrong. How can they just paint us as criminals for playing basketball? We have to do something about this, Malik said, determination in his eyes. We can't just let it go. We need to show people that we're not what they think. Like what? Jordan asked, feeling a mix of hope and apprehension. I don't know yet, but we have to speak up, Malik replied. Maybe we could organize something, like a community event where we invite everyone to come play basketball. Show them that we're just kids who want to have fun. Jamal nodded in agreement. Yeah, we could bring in parents and neighbors, make it a big deal. It'll be a chance to break down the walls between us and show them that we're just normal kids. Jordan felt a surge of pride at their initiative. That could work. We could invite everyone, get some flyers made up, post on social media. We need to make a statement. As they began brainstorming ideas, Jordan's heart swelled with determination. He knew they couldn't erase what had happened, but they could take a stand. They could reclaim their space and redefine their identities in the community. Meanwhile, Karen was grappling with the aftermath of her decision. Her phone buzzed with notifications, and she felt the weight of judgment from her neighbors. Friends she thought she knew were questioning her actions, and she found herself isolated in her guilt. That evening, she attended a neighborhood watch meeting, hoping to gain support. But as she shared her perspective, a chill swept through the room. Residents expressed their outrage, questioning why she had called the police on children. Karen, don't you see how your actions affected those boys? One neighbor asked, shaking her head in disbelief. They're kids. You put them in danger. I was just trying to protect our community. Karen protested, her voice rising. I didn't mean to cause any harm. But you did, another neighbor chimed in. You have to understand that your actions can have serious consequences. As the meeting continued, Karen felt her resolve begin to crumble. She realized that her perception of safety had come at the expense of innocent lives, and she was left grappling with the guilt of her decisions. Back at the park, Jordan and his friends made plans to organize a community basketball day. They would gather supporters, create a safe space, and invite everyone to join in. The event would be their way of healing, of reclaiming their right to play and enjoy their community without fear. As they finalized the details, Jordan felt a flicker of hope. This was more than just a game. It was a chance to change hearts and minds, to confront the biases that had tried to confine them. They had a long road ahead, but together they were ready to fight for their right to belong in their neighborhood. And as they prepared to take action, they felt the strength of their friendship solidify, bound by a shared commitment to rise above the challenges they faced. That night, as Jordan lay in bed, he thought of the upcoming event and the possibilities it held. He knew the fight wouldn't be easy, but he was determined to stand up for himself and his friends, to push back against the unfairness of a world that often judged based on appearance alone. And with that determination burning bright within him, Jordan fell asleep, dreaming of a brighter future where every child could play freely, without fear of judgment or consequence. The day of the community basketball event arrived, bringing with it a wave of nervous excitement. Jordan stood in front of the park, looking around at the makeshift setup they had created. Banners hung from the trees, colorful signs proclaiming unity in the community and play together, stand together. A few tables were set up, stocked with snacks and drinks, while a portable speaker sat waiting to pump out music and set the tone for the day. His friends Malik and Jamal joined him, their faces lit with anticipation. This is going to be amazing, Malik said, bouncing a basketball between his hands. We've already got a good crowd. As people began to trickle in, the trio watched nervously. Jordan scanned the faces of the arriving community members, feeling a mixture of hope and apprehension. Would they come to support him and his friends, or would this event turn into a reflection of the biases they were fighting against? Dr. Angela Mitchell, the physician who had intervened during the incident at the park, arrived with her own children in tow. I'm so glad to see this happening, she exclaimed, pulling Jordan into a warm embrace. This is exactly what the community needs, a chance to come together. Thanks for coming, Dr. Mitchell. Jordan replied, his heart lifting at her presence. We just want to show everyone that we're not a threat. We just want to play. As the event kicked off, the atmosphere lightened. Families joined the fun, children laughed, and the sound of sneakers squeaking against the pavement filled the air. The basketball court became a melting pot of different backgrounds, ages, and stories. Jordan felt a swell of pride as he watched people join in on the games. They played pickup basketball, and he noticed some older players stepping in, eager to help. Neighbors who had previously stayed distant now cheered each other on, creating a sense of camaraderie that had been missing from the park. Midway through the event, Jordan took a break and watched the scene unfold. Laughter and excitement echoed around him, a stark contrast to the tension he had felt just days earlier. Yet he also noticed a few lingering glances of suspicion directed at him and his friends from some of the older residents. He sighed, but Dr. Mitchell approached him, sensing his unease. Jordan, this is a big step. Change takes time, but you're already making a difference today, she reassured him. Thanks, Dr. Mitchell. It just feels like some people still don't see us for who we are, Jordan admitted, glancing towards the small group of neighbors who were still reluctant to join in. Don't let their biases discourage you. This event is a chance for dialogue, she encouraged. Sometimes it just takes one brave act for others to start changing their minds. As the day progressed, the basketball court filled with energy. Jordan's father, Judge Thompson, arrived, his presence instantly bringing a sense of pride to Jordan. Dressed in casual attire, he waved to his son, a smile spreading across his face. Hey, champ, how's it going? Judge Thompson called out, approaching the court. Dad, it's going great. Look at everyone here. Jordan beamed, feeling a rush of happiness. I'm proud of you for organizing this, Judge Thompson said, placing a hand on Jordan's shoulder. You're not just playing basketball, you're creating a space for community. That's important. As they chatted, Karen arrived, hesitantly approaching the park. The cheers and laughter echoed around her, and for a moment, she felt a pang of guilt. She had made a mistake, but she hadn't expected the event to be so vibrant. Cautiously, she stepped forward, her heart racing, as she noticed Jordan talking with his father. She thought about all the backlash she had received from friends and neighbors since the incident, and for the first time, she felt the weight of her actions heavy on her shoulders. Hey, Karen, Dr. Mitchell called out, waving her over. Come join us. We're celebrating community today. Karen hesitated, but the warmth of the invitation melted her resolve. Hi, she said, approaching cautiously. I hope it's okay that I'm here. Jordan turned to her, feeling a rush of mixed emotions. What are you doing here? He asked, trying to keep his voice steady. I wanted to see what you all were doing, Karen replied, her voice softer than he expected. I didn't realize how important this was. The tension in the air was palpable as the moment hung between them. Jordan's friends looked on, wary but curious about how he would respond. I mean, you called the cops on us, Jordan said, the hurt evident in his voice. You didn't give us a chance to just be kids. I know, Karen said, her eyes downcast, and I'm really sorry for that. I've been thinking a lot about my actions and how they affect others. I realize now that I reacted out of fear, and I shouldn't have done that. Jordan was taken aback. He had expected defensiveness, not an apology. You don't get it. It's not just about this one thing. It's about how we're treated every day, just because of how we look. Karen nodded, her expression earnest. I understand that now. I see it in my own community, and I'm ashamed. I want to do better. Dr. Mitchell stepped in, sensing the need for dialogue. Maybe we can all learn from this experience. We can't change the past, but we can work together to build a better future. Jordan took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. He wanted to believe Karen could change, but doubt lingered. I don't know if I can just forget what happened, he admitted. Neither do I, Karen replied, her voice trembling. But I want to try. I want to listen and learn, and maybe together we can find a way to heal this community. As the conversation continued, Jordan felt a shift. The community event was bringing people together, breaking down walls that had long stood between them. He saw families joining in the games, laughing and cheering for each other. As the sun began to set, casting a golden hue over the park, Jordan felt a sense of unity emerging. The barriers that had separated them were beginning to crumble, and it was a start. Dr. Mitchell rallied the crowd for a group photo, encouraging everyone to gather together. "Let's capture this moment of unity," she announced, her voice brimming with enthusiasm. As people lined up, Jordan stood beside his friends, the excitement palpable. They smiled, embodying the joy and resilience that had brought them to this moment. Karen stepped into the photo as well, standing beside Jordan, her presence a symbol of the potential for change. The camera clicked, capturing a moment that would become a beacon of hope for the community, a testament to the power of dialogue and the strength of unity. Later, as the event wound down, Jordan found himself reflecting on the day's events. They had faced challenges, but they had also taken a significant step towards healing and understanding. He felt proud of what they had accomplished, not just for themselves, but for everyone in their community. As families began to disperse, Jordan, Malik, and Jamal gathered together. "We did it, guys," Malik exclaimed, his face alight with excitement. "This was amazing." "Yeah, I didn't expect so many people to show up," Jamal added, glancing at the remnants of the day scattered around the park. Jordan nodded, feeling a newfound sense of belonging. "We're just getting started. This is only the beginning." As they packed up the remaining supplies, Jordan felt a sense of resolve settling in his heart. They would continue to push for change, to challenge the perceptions that had tried to confine them. Together, they could transform not only their neighborhood, but also the narrative that surrounded them. And as the last rays of sunlight dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the park, Jordan knew that they had taken a stand, not just for themselves, but for everyone who had ever felt the weight of judgment and fear. They had chosen to rise above, to create a brighter future, one game at a time. The sun rose on a new day in Maplewood, illuminating the remnants of the vibrant community basketball event that had transformed the park. Jordan woke up with a sense of purpose, invigorated by the conversations and connections made the previous day. He understood that change wouldn't happen overnight, but the seeds of hope had been planted. After breakfast, he gathered his things and decided to meet Malik and Jamal at the park. The air was crisp, and the soft sound of leaves rustling in the wind reminded him that autumn was approaching. As he walked, he reflected on the significance of the event and the meaningful conversations that had occurred. Arriving at the park, Jordan found Malik and Jamal already shooting hoops, their laughter filling the space with an infectious energy. The remnants of the event still lingered. A few scattered banners, empty water bottles, and the worn-out basketball they had used all day. "Hey, champ," Malik called out, tossing the ball to Jordan as he approached. "You ready to show us how it's done?" Jordan caught the ball, a grin spreading across his face. "Always. Let's do it." As they played, the sound of laughter mingled with the rhythm of bouncing balls, creating a soundtrack of youth and camaraderie. Yet, as they played, Jordan couldn't shake the feeling of responsibility weighing on him. The community had shown up for them, and now they needed to keep the momentum going. After an hour of playing, they took a break, collapsing onto the bleachers, breathless and exhilarated. Jordan looked at his friends, his mind racing with ideas. "We should plan another event. We need to keep the conversation going." Jamal nodded. "Definitely. We can invite local leaders, parents, and maybe even the police. We should talk about our experiences, let people know how we feel." "Yeah, and we can invite Karen too," Malik added. "She needs to hear from us, not just talk at us. It's time for her to understand how her actions affected us." Jordan felt a surge of determination. "Let's set it up. We can organize a community forum. It'll be a chance for everyone to share their experiences, to learn from one another." As they brainstormed, Jordan felt a sense of purpose solidifying within him. This was more than just about basketball. It was about creating a safe space for dialogue, breaking down barriers, and forging connections. They could help change perceptions, not just in Maplewood, but beyond. That afternoon, they met with Dr. Mitchell, who had been instrumental in bringing the community together. She was excited about their idea, and offered to help coordinate the event. We can create a panel where different voices are heard: parents, police, teachers, and of course, you boys. It'll be a great opportunity for everyone to understand the different perspectives at play. Jordan felt a sense of validation. They were not alone in this fight. The community was ready to rally around them. Over the next few weeks, they worked tirelessly to prepare for the forum, sending out flyers, creating social media posts, and inviting community leaders. As the date approached, anticipation grew. The day of the forum dawned clear and bright, and Jordan felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. He arrived at the community center early, helping set up chairs and arranging the stage for the panel. When the doors opened, the turnout exceeded their expectations. Neighbors, families, and local leaders filled the room, the atmosphere buzzing with energy and curiosity. As the event began, Jordan took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment settle on his shoulders. Dr. Mitchell opened the forum, emphasizing the importance of dialogue in fostering understanding and community. She introduced the panel, which included Jordan, Malik, Jamal, and several community leaders, including Karen, who had agreed to attend despite her reservations. As the discussion unfolded, each panelist shared their experiences and perspectives. Jordan spoke passionately about the incident in the park, detailing the fear and humiliation he felt when the police arrived. "We are just kids trying to play," he said, his voice steady. "We shouldn't have to worry about being judged for that." Malik and Jamal echoed his sentiments, sharing their own experiences of being treated with suspicion in their own neighborhood. The audience listened intently, and Jordan could feel a shift in the room as empathy began to take root. When it was Karen's turn to speak, the room fell silent. She took a deep breath, her eyes scanning the audience before settling on Jordan. "I want to apologize for my actions that day. I acted out of fear, and I didn't realize the impact it would have on you boys. I've spent time reflecting, and I understand now how my assumptions contributed to a harmful narrative." Her words were met with mixed reactions. Some audience members nodded, while others exchanged skeptical glances. But Jordan felt a flicker of hope. Karen was taking accountability, and that was a step in the right direction. "Thank you for saying that," Jordan responded, his voice measured. "It's important for us to understand each other's experiences. We can't let fear dictate our actions. We need to talk, to listen, and to learn from one another." The dialogue continued, and as the panel shared stories and answered questions, the room transformed. People began to connect on a deeper level, and the atmosphere shifted from one of suspicion to understanding. As the forum came to a close, Dr. Mitchell encouraged the audience to continue the conversation beyond the walls of the community center. "This isn't just a one-time event. We need to keep engaging with each other to break down these barriers and build a more inclusive community." Jordan felt a sense of accomplishment wash over him. They had taken a significant step forward, and he could see the change beginning to take root. As families mingled afterward, exchanging ideas and building connections, he felt proud of what they had achieved together. Later that evening, Jordan returned home, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. He found his father in the living room, reviewing case files. "How did it go?" Judge Thompson asked, looking up with a proud smile. "It was amazing, Dad. People were really listening. We talked about our experiences, and I think it made a difference," Jordan replied, his heart racing with excitement. "I'm proud of you, son. You've shown incredible courage in standing up for what's right," Judge Thompson said, his eyes shining with admiration. Jordan felt a warmth spread through him at his father's words. "We can't stop here. We need to keep pushing for change. There's still a lot of work to do." "I agree," Judge Thompson said, placing a reassuring hand on his son's shoulder. "But you've taken an important step. Change starts with conversations, and you've sparked a much-needed dialogue." As the days turned into weeks, Jordan and his friends continued to engage with the community. They organized regular basketball games, inviting neighbors to join in, fostering a sense of belonging that transcended racial and social divides. Karen became a regular participant, actively seeking ways to contribute to the community. She started a local group focused on bridging the gap between law enforcement and residents, promoting understanding and collaboration. Jordan watched as the park transformed into a hub of activity, where families gathered, laughter echoed, and conversations flourished. The unity that had been established began to heal the scars of division that had lingered in Maplewood. One afternoon, as Jordan played basketball with Malik and Jamal, he felt a profound sense of gratitude. The challenges they had faced had forged a bond stronger than any he had experienced before. "Hey, you guys," Jordan said, pausing to catch his breath. "I just wanted to say thank you for everything. I couldn't have done this without you." Malik grinned, tossing the ball between his hands. "We're in this together, man. We're a team, on and off the court." As they resumed playing, Jordan felt a renewed sense of hope for the future. They had turned a painful experience into a catalyst for change, and the friendships they had formed would carry them forward. In the heart of Maplewood, the echoes of laughter, the rhythm of basketballs bouncing, and the warmth of community served as a testament to their journey. They had taken a stand against fear, forged connections across divides, and created a space where everyone could belong. As Jordan looked around the park, he knew that they had only just begun. The fight for justice, understanding, and acceptance would continue, but he was ready. Together, they would keep pushing for a brighter future, one game at a time, united in their belief that change was possible. And with that thought, he picked up the ball, ready to play, ready to embrace whatever came next. Thanks for tuning in to today's video. We hope you enjoyed the story of Jordan and the journey toward understanding and community. If you found this video inspiring, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Your support helps us reach more viewers and spread these important messages. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. We love hearing from you. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update on our latest content. Together, let's keep the conversation going and foster understanding in our communities. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.